Hey everybody, I'm Emily Zink.
And I'm Chad Prevost, and today is a very special day, Emily.
That is true. What is today?
Well, it's not only Thursday, but it's the 100th episode of FreightWaves NOW. Boy, have we been through a lot over the past few months.
Yeah, I've only been here for about a week and a half, so I can't really speak to your journey and your transformation, but I did do a story about it. Check it out.
Hey FreightWaves fans, welcome to another edition of FreightWaves NOW.
Started out small,
That storm that was in the Midwest, a big blizzard, that's been moving through the Northeast.
but FreightWaves Now has always aimed to give you a big industry advantage.
I would try to get additional freight.
Now, in its 100th episode, Chad's beard is a thing of the past, but our expert knowledge continues to set you up for future success.
What's fascinating
Wow.
about that is it demonstrates that new truck orders and spot rates are incredibly correlated.
When I first saw FreightWaves Now, it was a very serendipitous moment in saying no one has ever done this before, and being the first industry mover, no one could ever really do this again.
Kyle Cunningham, a former truck driver and broker, just so happened to stumble upon FreightWaves Now months ago.
It wasn't really until they dove into the sonar aspect, then I realized that something extremely revolutionary was happening.
Cunningham says he was inspired by FreightWaves Now to learn more about the company as a whole.
And I went on the website and I said, I absolutely have to work here, no matter what it takes.
Fast forward to today.
The future for FreightWaves is essentially limitless.
Cunningham is now working at FreightWaves as a sonar account executive.
It's a shining moment in my time at FreightWaves and beyond FreightWaves Now.
It all came full circle. Cunningham occasionally finds himself in front of the camera, enlightening folks behind their screens.
When things get good, people say, let me get in a truck, let me get out there, let me get a piece of that. At 100 episodes ago, we just crested the hill with throw it in neutral, hit it Georgia overdrive. I'll see you at the bottom of the hill where we start right over again.
What he said. We're just getting started. Emily Zink, FreightWaves Now.
And it's telling a part of the story of the FreightWaves NOW 100th episode. We've got the man, the myth, the legend who came up with the idea itself. Craig, welcome. Good to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. You know, the craziest thing was we never intended to do FreightWaves Now. It was really sort of a spur of the moment idea that came about. We had just launched FreightWaves Weather, the weather
Right.
inside of sonar. So as part of that, I wanted to show the screens our new weather maps, and I wanted to be able to demonstrate those, and I thought video was a great way to do that. And so I just happened to have a GoPro in my backpack that day because my son and I had been doing a talk show called Fox and Fuller, and we were filming this thing to do. He wanted to be on
And that's
YouTube.
his nickname, Fox?
His nickname is Fox, and so he calls himself Fox. He's convinced all his classmates he calls himself Fox. His name is McLean, but he has this sort of identity with this sort of other person, imagination. Anyways, he had heard that I was in news. He asked me what I'd do and stuff, and I said, well, I'm in the news trying to explain to, at the time, a 7-year-old what I do. Is not easy, right? Freight markets is not something he would understand, but he understands the news. And so he says, I want to be on the news. So every day we would do Fox and Fuller, which is a 5-minute video show on YouTube to talk about like the local Chick-fil-A review or what the new movie that he was watching. Just a way to engage him. And so I happened to have the GoPro in my backpack and took it out, and Nadine and I started talking about weather. And I got a message from a couple of clients that said, do this again, do another report. We started doing this as sort of an accidental or unintentional thing. I wouldn't say accidental, but unintentional thing. And that took place for about a week. And then it became, hey, let's really invest in this. And we made you the host.
After a while, I mean, the rest is history, and still doing it with the GoPro.
It's so amazing. This is a GoPro. I mean, folks on camera don't realize we're filming this with a $200 HDT GoPro that I bought at Best Buy. And so there's nothing really that special in terms of the actual technology behind it, but the content is really what drives it.
And the screens got amazing.
Well, the screen, you remember, it was funny because when we first started this, it was filmed in our old offices and an old conference room, and the acoustics were horrible. We didn't have microphones.
Yeah.
So there was no microphones in those days. It was literally using whatever the GoPro. So as the camera person would come closer to us, you could the sound would accelerate, and as they would move back, the sound would go down. Now we've professionalized it, and this has become a bigger thing.
Back in the old days, about 5 or 6 months ago. Thanks so much, Craig. Awesome to have you on here.
And great to have you, and good luck with show 100.
Yes, it's going to be awesome.
I just love the story of how a FreightWaves Now started. That is too cute. And what's not cute and what's been frustrating for these poor folks is severe weather. You've just been talking about it. It seems like it will be an issue yet again. Where are we looking at?
Will, but not as big an issue in the Great Plains. Actually, most folks in the Great Plains today will get a break from the drenching rain, from the heavy flooding rain, although flooding along the Arkansas River will continue, and they're going to get a break from a lot of the tornadoes. The one part of the country, though, near the Great Plains that won't be getting a break is western Texas. San Angelo, up to around Midland and into New Mexico. That's where there is potential for severe thunderstorms today, and maybe some isolated tornadoes. And there's one other part of the country. We're going to go kind of closer up to the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, parts of the Tennessee Valley from Charleston, West Virginia, up into Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C. A lot of showers. There'll be some scattered thunderstorms that could turn severe during the late afternoon and into this evening as well across the Mid-Atlantic. So a lot of big cities along the I-95 corridor later today and into tonight. Drivers will be delayed because of showers and possibly severe storms, and air cargo could be delayed as well. Any air cargo that has to come in or go out of, say, Baltimore Washington Airport, LaGuardia, any of the other major airports in the Northeast, including Philadelphia, they should expect delays, but those storms will fade out late tonight. Now we're going to go to Chad and one of our economic experts, Anthony Smith.
Thanks for that, Nick. Actually, before we get to Anthony Smith, we're going to talk with market expert of air cargo, Jesse Cohen. He's flown in from Chicago to be with us again, and we're really excited. One of the things I learned today about air cargo, and it is niche, but it's a leading economic indicator. And here to tell us what is happening right now, Jesse Cohen, welcome.
Thanks very much, Chad. It's great to be here for the number 100 edition of FreightWaves Now.
Yeah, great to have you.
So what we have today is, with all of the business news focused on China tariffs and European tariffs and trade talks and what might happen, we're monitoring what's happening in the air freight world with rates in key markets that are potentially affected by tariffs. So here we have the blue line is our Hong Kong to North America average rate per kilo line going back a year. Our purple line, violet line, is the European Frankfurt to North America rate index. And then we have a new index that beginning of the 2019 from Shanghai to North America. So we're really looking at the top two lines here, the Hong Kong and the Shanghai, for what's happening on rates out of China in view of all of the discussion on tariffs. So here out of Hong Kong, we're up at 390. The rate has been on a little bit of an upward rise. This is not normal. Seasonally, we would normally be down here for most of the year.
So you're saying it's up year over year?
So we are up year over year, and we're certainly up over where we were, about 60 cents a kilo higher than where we were just a few months ago.
This
with
being
the blue
low,
line.
you say, is seasonality, the Chinese New Year.
Right, this is normal seasonality, low season, and the rates will then pick up after Labor Day, typically. But what we're seeing here is a little bit of an upward rise that we believe is some of that pre-stocking going on, folks trying to beat the tariffs or the potential tariffs with the talk about additional tariffs on $300 billion. Shanghai, no clear trend yet, but rising just a little bit. This is one that typically will lag a little bit behind Hong Kong. We're going to keep an eye on both of them going forward.
Okay.
And then when we talk about Europe, there's no immediate issues, but there are four major negotiations that are about to occur. One of them happens to do with the automotive sector and tariffs on that. Then there's Airbus and Boeing subsidies and retaliations, and then just general overall lowering of industrial tariffs and agricultural tariffs. And what we're seeing here with Frankfurt, this is a Euro 95. This is down over 15% year over year. And with softer, we're getting indications that April was very soft for most air carriers and May is continuing that trend. That's really puts a lot of pressure on freighter operators, especially with higher fuel costs. So with this kind of a trend, we saw Lufthansa Cargo this week announce a reduction in freighter capacity in the second and third quarter. They'll be providing specifics to customers, and I'm sure we'll learn about the specifics very, very soon. But clearly, removing the capacity is a step to improving their profitability, improving their load factors, and improving yields.
Fantastic! Great analysis here on FreightWaves 100th episode. Thanks for that, Jesse. And by the way, all of our market experts, we have 13 in the house, they all write every single day. They deep dive. If you ever want to check out their writing, he's been writing a lot on air cargo this very day. Feel free to have a cup of coffee and sit down at the FreightWaves site and check it out. Now we're going to turn to market expert and one of our economists, Anthony Smith.
Thanks, Chad. And today we're going to take a quick look at the new revisions for the first quarter GDP. Looking at the first quarter GDP, we have new results that show that there is a 3.1% gain from last quarter compared to the previously reported 3.2. The decline comes from a downward revision in business investment and profits, corporate profits.
So what does this mean, Anthony, in terms of we're talking a lot about the potential for a freight recession, but we're not really sure. What is this piece of the puzzle? How does it inform us? Does it tell us anything positive or negative, such as you can evaluate right now?
Right now, it gives us a positive picture for what we're seeing on the good side of the economy. This is not going to be the end-all, be-all for the freight economy itself, and it shouldn't be used as a barometer for the freight economy.
Okay.
This is more something that's going to lean a little bit more heavier to consumer consumption, but within consumer consumption, a big chunk of that is going to be services and not just goods itself. When we're looking at the freight economy, we're going to be looking a little bit more closely to imports and exports in that equation. And most recently, we have a release from the U.S. Census Bureau, the advance report, that showed that there was a decline, most likely across the board, for imports and exports. And this is something that's really going to make an impact for the freight economy, but not quite touch so much the consumers themselves.
Okay, fantastic. Were you going to tell us about new housing starts as well?
Yes, just shifting gears quickly, we have results for new homes, single-family home sales. There was a slight tick down in the most recent month of data, but this is still positive on a year-over-year basis. We see that there was a 7% gain compared to the same month last year. So one of the things that we're seeing within new home sales is that the median home sales prices are still rising, while we're seeing homes still being sold at a pretty decent clip on a year-over-year basis. And so one of the things that we need to keep an eye on is that median price level. And there's going to be a little bit of a imbalance, I should say, between available homes that are on the lower end of the price range and demand for those homes. So prices are still kind of climbing up a bit, while we're seeing that there's still demand for homes on the lower end of the price range.
So ending on a little bit of a note of optimism, with a troubled outlook in some ways, how appropriate for us to end on that note.
So it's not all bad news, as we just heard from Anthony. So that is good news and good for our 100th episode.
Yes, it's been a delightful show. I feel like we're cracking the whip, getting the tempo going. The show is getting more informative and entertaining all the time. I like to call it edutainment.
Oh, I love that word. You should trademark that. And yeah, a lot of people interacting more on social media, which I love. And we always love when you share the love too. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the good stuff.
And in the meantime, don't worry, be happy.